Our breaking coverage on Trump doubling the tariffs on India is a big breaking story. NDTV, of course, broke it first. And the repercussions, the impact, the fallout is something that we're going to be decoding right through prime time here. It is by far the biggest story with the biggest ramifications for us all over this country. Welcoming onto our coverage, Asha Jadeja Motwani. She's a well-known Indian-American venture capitalist and philanthropist. Asha, welcome. Good to see you. We did see your tweet a few hours ago, Asha, where you said, Prime Minister Modi needs to pick up the phone in good faith, speak to Trump, diffuse this situation, and put an end to this suspense between India and the US. Which is very damaging for relations, even though it's between Trump and India at this point of time. Just before you joined us, Trump and the White House have announced a doubling of those tariffs. Asha, what do you make of that?
Well, this is shocking, and this escalation must not be allowed to happen. The ball is in India's court right now. Remember, India is an extremely important strategic partner for the United States. And I'm not sure exactly what's happening with Trump and in the White House right now, but they're trying to play sort of brinkmanship right now and trying to get India to say yes to buying more energy from the US and buying more weapons from the US. I think what India needs to, first thing we need to do is make sure that that the Prime Minister picks up the phone, talks to Trump and says that we should continue these negotiations, number one. Number two, second thing is that we need to make sure that we communicate to the president that India is the only country that has a foot in the door with Russia of our size and of our relationship, that has a foot in the door with a relationship with Russia so that we can be the peacemaker. We are the main peacemaker between Russia and Ukraine right now. We are the most important peace builder. So this is another point that needs to be communicated. Third thing that needs to be communicated by the Prime Minister is that we are stabilizing the oil markets right now by consuming so much of Russian oil, crude oil, which has been hugely approved by the Biden administration. We are stabilizing the markets and we are providing what the US wants us to do, which is not let Russians provide oil directly to the Europeans, and instead we are the ones providing. That's what the Biden administration also wanted. That's exactly what the US wants. It's in its strategic interest. So these are few points that we need to communicate to the team. But most important thing right now is for us to set aside our ego, knowing that we are extremely important to the United States, and make sure that we reassure Trump that the US is very important to us and that we will do what it takes in buying more energy, number one. And number two, buying more weapon systems, slowly but surely. And number three, that our businesses, our massive business houses, will invest in the US. We will create more jobs in the US. Itna bolne mein kuch hoga nahi. There is no communication, there is no commitment.
Asha ji, I take your point. I know what you're saying is in good faith, but I am just wondering, where is the question of ego in all of this? Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump share a very good personal equation. None of the things that you have said are unknown to Trump and his advisors. They know very well, why India needs to buy Russian oil. They know all these reasons. All these explanations are very well known to them. This is something else. There is something else going on. This is about the deal,
there
obviously.
Is one more thing.
India has bought $30 billion worth of defense equipment, ma'am. It's, what are we missing here?
No, there is. So here's what. This is more conspiracy theory kind of a thing that it has been lurking in my mind. The reason Pakistan has so much leverage in the US right now is because it's piggybacking on the massive Qatari lobby networks in Washington, D.C. It is an old friendship between Qatar and Pakistan. It's a very powerful Sunni network, and they're going to work on it. They're going to, Qatar is going to support Pakistan against India at any cost. This is my guess right now. Once again, it's a conspiratorial kind of a theory that I have, but I think that the Qataris have put pressure on the Trump team to make sure that we denounce India. But that's my guess. I don't have any proof of that. But my think right now is that US is too important for India and India is too important for US for the Indian leadership to let this play out on its own. We need to be more proactive.
Asha ji, but the question I'm asking is, is it something substantial that Trump expects, or is he looking for a gesture? From your tweet, it looks like he wants someone to come and kiss his ring, give him a gesture that makes him feel good, some kind of an ego massage, Nobel Peace Prize. ऐसा कुछ चाहिए क्या उनको?
Shiv, this is all that is. It is just gesture.
Wow.
Trump is very easy to work on. Play the game correctly, kiss his ring if we have to, but make sure that we tell Trump that, first of all, what's the harm in thanking him for saying, hey, thank you for making so many phone calls when during the Operation Sindoor. At least thank you, right? If nothing else. And what's the harm in saying that? Yeah. Number one. Number two, yes, he wants everybody to come and kiss his ring. I mean, Trump is known to be, egomaniac, and that's okay. I mean, just tell him that we are going to work on it and get this going, because we are too important. India is too important to the US right now for this relationship. And US cannot afford to push us into the arms of China right now.
Okay.
So please, just make sure that you speak to the right people in the White House, Shiv. Okay. You should not be speaking to, people like Subhash Garg and all these people, Indian IAS officers who were fired by Nirmala Sitharaman. Why are they giving gyan on this whole thing? We should not be pushed into the arms of China.
This is very interesting. This is actually perhaps the most interesting thing I've heard in the last 72 hours, which is that, it is not a substantive move or some big concession that Trump is looking for. He's looking for a kiss on his ring, some kind of ego massage, a thank you, a recommendation for the Nobel Peace Prize, which may be actually a little bit more difficult than actual trade concessions. But welcoming Smita Prakash, editor ANI, Yashvardhan Sinha, former ambassador to the United Kingdom, as well as Professor Andrew Latham, author and professor of political science at Macalester College, York University in the United States. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for being with us. Smita, very quickly to you. How are you reading this? Trump at least putting his money where his mouth is as far as that 24-hour deadline is concerned, and pushing very hard. He said 24 hours ke baad, if you guys have not stopped buying Russian oil or at least reduced it, your tariffs are going to be doubled. What do you think, Smita?
Yeah, well, so since this morning, one has been hearing all kinds, like from 25% to 100%. So it was, I think the fine print and the details still have to be deciphered. We have a couple of days for making the conversations, taking the conversations further. I don't think it's a shutdown completely. But the way he's saying it, it seems to be that he's like setting the pitch for his batsmen before a resumption of trade talks, if there are, and maybe modify this order if there is no retaliation from our side. Of course, we won't fold in like say the Indonesians did or whatever, but he knows that these are tough negotiations and he is holding out a carrot and stick approach. It's probably his way of doing business. I think both Modi and Trump, they're both economic nationalists. I don't think we should see this as simply an ego thing, or it's like we need to kiss his ring and it's a Nobel Prize. I think things go beyond this. There are delegations working on this, and that's not been their takeaway. And with US now, one has to be pragmatic enough to understand that we have entered this realm of being a transactional relationship with them. The sooner we realize it, it is better. We should just wipe the slate clean of legacy issues. Those legacy paths, I think, Shiv, are now shut forever. At least I don't see that reopening. And that's how other countries are also doing. Protracted negotiations to reach their deals. EU has forgotten its historical past. Japan has forgotten its historical past with the US. And very stoically, they have gone ahead. That, or else we just tighten the belts and weather the storm, whether it is 25% today and another 75% henceforth. Now, tariffs are negative growth stories. Our GDP is going to get hurt. That will not be good for the India story. A story that Mr. Modi has to take back to his people again and again, because, we have continuous elections in this country. So he has to take back the India story again and again. And Indian negotiators will have to swallow the humility pill, unfortunately, because because that's how it is. I mean, US tariffs on Chinese imports fell, right? After, I think, 140 or 145% or something like that, it fell down to 35% after negotiations. And China did have negotiations, fine. They are a larger economy, they can push back more. We are strong too, but we are not China, and we are not the Europe, we are not Japan. Still, we are holding on. So penalties will be there. We'll have to take the hit. The government has talked, just the government now, it is necessary for the BJP as a party and the government to talk to the people in this country and tell them that we have to do this, we have to talk. There's no need to get hurt by taunts that come in from the opposition that, oh my God, the Modi-Trump bond has taken a hit and it's all lose from here. No, I don't think we should go that path.
Very interesting. So it's not just about a kiss on the ring. It's much more substantive than that. Perhaps gestures are part of it, icing on the cake, if you will. But there is going to have to be some concession, some middle ground, removing legacy issues and maybe hitting reboot as far as ties between the two countries are concerned. That's what the opportunity is here. Ambassador Sinha, how are you reading this? What should India do next?
Shiv, thank you for having me. At the outset, I think we should not press any panic buttons. We should handle this maturely.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I respectfully disagree with Ms. Motwani. We are too big a country of 1.4 billion people. We are the fourth largest economy in the world, heading towards being the third largest. We don't kiss rings. And as far as massaging egos are concerned, I remember the Howdy Modi event at Houston. I remember in Ahmedabad, the Modi Stadium, the sort of welcome that President Trump got. I don't think he would have got that sort of welcome anywhere else in the world. So I think what we must understand that this is a very strong relationship. I mean, the trade in goods and services are now almost $200 billion. American companies have invested about $60 billion into India. And Indian companies have invested around $40 billion into the US.
Yeah.
The US is our largest trading partner, and we are the US's 12th largest trading partner. But the relationship is based on give and take. It's based on mutual respect. We cannot be slighted and insulted like this. And I understand President Trump, that's his style, and that is how he likes to negotiate, and we are prepared to negotiate. We've had 5 rounds of negotiations already. And in fact, a framework had been agreed to, but that has been torpedoed. Now we hope that the next round, which will take place on the 25th of August, I believe, will produce results. I mean, look at the way we are being tariffed out. I mean, we are supposed to be a strategic partner. In fact, if I remember, one of his predecessors described the India-US relationship as the defining partnership of the 21st century.
Exactly.
Where has all that gone? In one stroke of a pen or a tweet or whatever, 30 years of hard work, assiduously built upon by people on both sides, is crumbling. And mind you, Shiv, this is going to have a lasting impact. It's not, we might reach a deal, I'm sure, and I hope that we reach a deal. But, buying defense equipment, forget it. What sort of defense equipment? F-35s from an unreliable partner? I'm afraid, I think we will think twice before going in for anything from the US.
I'm wondering exactly the same thing.
This is the problem. I mean, we really need to analyze and see where we went wrong. I'm sure we went wrong too somewhere.
I'm going to come to that bit in just a moment. That we all hope that there's a deal in sight. After all this drama, hopefully there is a deal that's going to actually be struck between the two countries and the relationship can proceed. But what about the scars of the things that have been said? I think that is something that needs to be addressed as well. Welcoming Willem Buiter, American-British economist, also onto our coverage. But Professor Latham, to you first, how do you see what's just happened? The second tariff bomb, as we're calling it, has been dropped as promised by Trump. What do you think is going to happen next? How do you see India responding now?
Well, I think it'd be wise for India, if I can speak for Indians, not to overreact, not to react very much at all, just to plow ahead and do what they've been doing, because this too shall pass. Trump is having a little bit of a temper tantrum. He beat up Japan, he beat up Indonesia, he beat up the EU. He got what he wanted. He's beating up Canada and Mexico. He's going to get what he wanted there. And he's frustrated because India won't roll over and play dead. And there are good reasons for that, which have less to do with Indian national pride. Canadians have national pride, Japanese have national pride. It has to do with electoral dynamics in India. The BJP can't roll over on this and sacrifice the agricultural sector and the pharmaceutical and so on and expect to be reelected anywhere in the near future. If I were to take a 30,000-foot perspective on this very, very quickly, I would say three things. One of which is that Trump is damaging the geoeconomic relationship here. The rules-based international order, if not dead, is on its deathbed. And Trump has figured this out, and he's partly engineered it, and now he's looking to do as many bilateral trade deals as possible. With everybody from Canada to Japan and now to India, it's no longer a world order, as it were. It's a bunch of bilateral relationships. That is not going to work in the long run. Geopolitically, India and the United States have to be aligned in the Indo-Pacific because of the China threat. There are lots of forces pushing them together in that respect. And I think, therefore, that this is a bit of a storm that will pass because the interests are simply too deep and they're too aligned. And finally, something which very few people know about, either in or beyond the U.S., is that Trump is alienating the largest and most powerful diaspora in the United States. Which is Indian Americans. They naturally, historically, have gravitated towards the Democratic Party. They started to move towards the Republican Party during Trump 1.0. And I think he's going to decelerate that movement, if not reverse that movement. And that's going to have domestic electoral implications as the Indian diaspora, which, as I said, is the most wealthy and powerful diaspora in the United States.
I think Asha Jadeja Motwani was speaking a little bit from that perspective as well, and I'll come back to her and all my guests in just a moment. Vishnu Shom joins us live from Israel. He's been reporting from there. I've asked him to plug in just a moment, but before I go back to all of you, what does this mean for India? 50% tariffs, 25% more than what it was earlier. I just want to quickly break it down so there's context for all of our viewers. Higher cost for Indian exports, obviously. It stands at 50% tariffs right now. It's a setback as far as steel, chemicals and pharmaceuticals are concerned. The India-US trade imbalance obviously will be widened quite dramatically. Now take a look at the high tariff charts that hits all these countries. India stands at 50%, Brazil at 50%, China is at 30%, interestingly, Canada at 35%, Switzerland at 39%, and Iraq at 35%. So that's where things stand right now. 50% is where it's at as far as India is concerned, and we've just named all those sectors which will be impacted. We'll have to see whether there's going to be any follow-up announcement from the White House on this. But Willem Buiter, your opening comment on this: India shouldn't overreact. So far it has signaled that it is no pushover. It's not going to have any knee-jerk reactions to these announcements. But it looks like Trump is only escalating further and further. What do you think?
Yes, this 50% hike is not unexpected, but it is very punitive. But it's not the end of the story. Negotiations will go on and must go on. But I also believe that at the moment, while India is the fastest growing economy in the world and could well in 10 years be the second largest economy in the world, at the moment, it's a minor trade partner for the US. 2.7% of US exports go to India, 2.7% of US imports. So there's very little trading bargaining power. The bargaining power is geopolitical, right? And I think there will have to be concessions by China, inevitably. Russian oil is not something that is simply Trump bluffing. This is a real issue for all of the West. And of course, Indian tariffs are among the highest in the world. And a selective reduction in tariffs, politically not too sensitive in India, seems to be an inevitable part of the reconciliation story.
Smita, is Russian oil, India's purchase of Russian oil, according to you, your understanding with the people you've spoken to, is that a negotiable right now? So far, India has signaled that, our energy security interests are, nobody can touch that or dictate on that. What is your sense? Is that something that, India could dial down?
No, so this is where I think most of the objection of America is. They will, as far as the other issues are concerned, they will negotiate with us. But on the point of Russian oil, I think it is no go for both of them.
Yeah.
This is where it is getting stuck in everything. But to take off from where Yash Sinha had said that, look, we are a mature republic. We understand that it's a dynamic situation. We will have to bring in some kind of engage diplomatically, use our heft with our other partners, say in the Quad, in G20, in the UN, partners who Trump listens to. I won't say America listens to, I'll just say Trump listens to, because here it seems like we have negotiators in the Republican administration. We've had very good ties with the Republican Party, as we did with the Democrats. But here it seems that it's just Trump that one has to deal with. So we have to figure out pathways where we can talk. And the thing is that it's what should I say? Things do sour up between two nations. There are times when these become partnerships. There are no permanent friends. There are no perpetual enemies. So it's only interests that matter, and we've maintained these special relationships in this multipolar world that we are in. The NSA is in Moscow today. You think DC doesn't know that? They are obviously watching that. They would have seen it very carefully, and it's something that we have to. And I keep reiterating that while we talk to America, while we keep with the Russian oil, we need that. We are going to keep with that. But we also need to build up domestic resilience. We need to talk politically to our own people and explain the situation. That communication is lacking too. I think there too, the government needs to be more proactive.
Very interesting. Asha Jadeja Motwani, on the important point of the all-powerful Indian diaspora in the United States. Are they, A, what do they think? And B, is there a back channel to Trump and his advisors from powerful Indians in the United States, wondering what the hell is going on?
So right now, the only back channel is me. So thank you, first of all, for bringing me on this show, because I'm a donor to the Republican. I'm a shameless donor to the Republican Party, and I'm doing this. Shiv, my recommendation to all of you in the media business: talk to people who know the White House. Talk to people who understand the White House, who have relationships in the White House, and who are meeting with Trump, who are meeting with Howard Lutnick, who have a relationship with Howard Lutnick. This is important. You guys need to speak to Ricky Gill. Bring Ricky Gill on the show, please. It's crucial that you bring Walter Russell Mead and Ricky Gill on your show. From the Indian diaspora, it's just me right now, and it's so sad because it should be many more of us who should be connected to the White House. And hopefully this is going to happen now that people understand the pressures. But remember that this is only temporary, as the professor said. This too shall pass. Right now, India is too important to the United States for any of this to drag on for too long. But we need to pick up the phone. India needs to pick up the phone and call Trump and make him feel good about himself. He's an egomaniac, unfortunately, and we need to work on that. He's easy, though. He's easy to work with by picking up the phone. We need to do that. It's urgent.
Okay, some substantive concessions, but also picking up the phone and making Trump feel good about himself, is a difficult package. But at this moment, it's seeming like a bitter pill to swallow after all the things that have been said. And I agree with Ambassador Sinha on that front as well. Vishnu Shom, our group executive editor, is live with me from Israel. Vishnu, sorry to drag you away from your frontline reporting, but I did want a perspective on this because it's a it's an important one. You're looking at all of these things very, very closely. What are you hearing from the External Affairs Ministry and the government, Vishnu, about how India is going to react to this? What is India's next step now that this second tariff bomb is dropped?
Well, it is a tariff bomb, and if you look at India's response a couple of days back, when Donald Trump made his latest series of threats, New Delhi came up with a response within 2 hours where we blamed the West and the United States for hypocrisy, saying that the United States continues itself to import several items from Russia. The energy requirements of Europe are partially met from Russia as well. So therefore, why is it that America is now picking on India? These are double standards and this is hypocrisy. If that is the precedent which has been set by New Delhi, and with Donald Trump now acting on what he has threatened and is raising tariffs up to 50%, which matches the highest, which is Brazil, then New Delhi will actually have to look at this from a more long-term standpoint. And I think that is a matter of real concern. In as much as we might get a trade deal done, I do believe that this decision by Donald Trump might result in a significant trust deficit between Washington and New Delhi. There is too much on the table already to completely discard. Nobody is thinking about that so far, but that trust deficit is very, very significant. Why? Because India and the US have historically deeply distrusted each other, but they've developed that sense of trust after signing several foundational agreements over a period of more than 20 years, despite very sharp differences. The relationship is at an extremely critical level when it comes to defense, technology, the economy, pharma, clean energy, you name it. And now to have the US president all of a sudden put all that aside and say, sorry, India, 50% tariffs, because you are meeting your energy requirements and I have a problem with that. That is something that would hurt New Delhi deeply. So I would suspect, best case scenario, the trust between New Delhi and Washington will be eroded significantly.
Vishnu, thanks very much for that perspective. Hugely important. The trust factor is something that we haven't spoken about, and that is something that Ambassador Sinha also sort of hinted at. But the question I'd like to ask you, the second question I'd like to ask you, Ambassador Sinha, then is, what would be happening in the Indian External Affairs Ministry right now in the government? How would they be preparing to respond? Obviously, government wargaming the possibility of 25% going to 50%, 50% going to 100% is all very much on the table. So what would a plan B discussion look like at this time?
Shiv, I can't second guess the government because I'm well out of the government for quite some years now. But all I can say is that it would be a very considered response. India doesn't react in a knee-jerk fashion. It is always a very considered response, and I'm quite sanguine that that's what will happen. As I said earlier, we need to continue on the path of negotiation. We'd be very happy. I completely agree with what Vishnu has said. And I did say it, I didn't use the word trust, but I did say the relationship as it was built up is being undermined. But I think the problem is that when the deal is done, if the deal is done, what has happened now has left a very bad taste in the mouth. I'm sure if Gallup or whoever else took a poll in India right now, you would get to know exactly what the Indian people feel. And after all, we are a democracy, and our government has to reflect the opinion of the people. And I think what this has done is to almost, and I use the word almost because there are some standouts, almost unified the country behind the government on one particular issue, and that is that we will not bow to foreign pressure like this.
Smita, very quick question. There is an erosion of trust for sure. Is there a communication breakdown that you're sensing? I don't want to oversimplify it and say, we need to just pick up the phone, even though I know Asha was using a metaphor there. But is there a communication breakdown, or is there a conversation going on to try and resolve this?
Unfortunately, one has to think of this as a communication breakdown. Otherwise, it would not have resulted in this kind of a penalty of an additional 25%. But it would be myopic to think that the US president is just a petulant child and an egomaniac, and all we need to do is suck up to him. I respectfully disagree. He's a tough negotiator. He prides himself in striking deals, whether you agree with him politically or not. But the fact is that he uses the bully pulpit of being the head of the most powerful country in the world, and he has struck deals for his country with friend and foe in the rest of the world. If you're an American, you'll give credit to him. Yes, his polls have shown that he's most unpopular right now, but he cares a zilch. He doesn't care at all what the world thinks, what the polls show. The thing is that I agree we should not react in a knee-jerk manner. Yes, we don't even react in a knee-jerk manner. That's not how our foreign policy works. We move, in fact, like an elephant. It took us decades to turn 90 degrees and reduce the suspicion levels with our relationship with the US. Even today, those in this city, in New Delhi, who have been working assiduously to improve ties with the US are probably striking their foreheads and saying, oh my God, is this what it's 2 decades of hard work gone down the chute? Because there are many people who are going to say that this is what America is. But the point is, this is not what America is. This is not what America thinks. Yes, temporarily, during this process that we are negotiating trade, this is what America thinks.
What are those concessions that India can make if Russian oil is not going to be one of them? What could it possibly be? I'm actually wondering, because Professor Latham, if I could bring you back into this, and we've got some breaking news coming in that the tariffs will take effect after 21 days. So there's this very substantial window obviously coming in, which is the clearest possible indication, and we can all agree that this is very much an active negotiation that's taking place. I agree with Smita, only a communication breakdown could have resulted, in this very language of, if you don't do this in the next 24 hours, then we'll take action, etc. But this 21-day window for the tariffs to take effect clearly signals that there is an opportunity for negotiation, and that negotiations, in fact, are probably happening. Professor Latham, what kind of concessions, in your view, could be on the table? India is making it clear, at least thus far, that cranking down the import of Russian oil is not up for discussion.
Well, first of all, I would say that the delay in terms of imposing the sanctions, that's Trump 101, isn't it? That's been the case since day one. This is a hard deadline, a hard deadline, a hard deadline. Oops, 21 days from now, 30 days from now, 90 days from now is the new deadline. So I'm not surprised. Secondly, what can India give? Well, it can't give Trump what he really, really, really wants, which is some concession on the oil. I mean, of course, India is going to buy cheap oil. It needs oil, and Russian oil is cheap at the moment. And I know it's hard for North Americans and Europeans to get this through their heads, but the Ukraine war is not the most important thing in the world around the world. That's really a Euro-Atlantic obsession at the moment, and it doesn't play that way in the global South. India is not going to reform its agricultural sector. Canada won't even reform its agricultural sector. I mean, there's too many jobs at stake. There's too many political constituencies that have some investment in that. There's just no way that's going to happen. Yeah. Where I do see some possibilities is in terms of defense industrial collaboration and cooperation. We've already seen baby steps taken in that direction. India purchasing not the F-35, which is a piece of junk, but maybe investing in the F-47, the sixth generation fighter, which is under development now in the United States. Maybe simply buying more from America that's not high profile, high tech, cutting edge, next generation stuff, and building the relationship around the obvious to me, which is this geopolitical relationship, which has an economic component to it. Yeah. Some of it is big, buying Russian oil, but some of it is smaller, buying American military technology or American firms investing in India, like General Electric has, for example. So I see small gestures, small movements. One last thing about gestures. This is not about Trump. This is about powerful American social forces that are being channeled by Trump. Does he matter? Yes, individuals matter in human history. But you take Trump out of the equation, those forces are still at play. and they're still going to be working themselves out. And India and Canada and other countries are still going to have to work out ways to deal with that part of the American population as long as they occupy the White House.
Ambassador D.P. Srivastav is also with us. He's India's former ambassador to Iran. Here on Primetime on NDTV, we're getting as many voices as possible on this constantly breaking story. A minute ago, we just told you that Trump has announced 21 days. It's 21 days for this tariff bomb to take effect. So obviously, there's a window for negotiations. Ambassador Srivastav, what do you make of this tariff bomb? We've been talking about it for the last 20 minutes. Various views here. How do you see it? What do you think India's reaction will be or should be?
Steve, I was in Washington in early 90s, 91, when Super 301 and Special 301 sanctions were sought to be imposed on us. And we survived. So my suggestion is, of course, I'm out of the government, but I think we need to wait it out. Now, I have 3 or 4 points to make. This is not simply about oil. Europe buys gas from Russia. Russia accounts for 17% of Europe's LNG imports. So why only pick on Indian purchase of crude oil? Europe is also buying energy from Russia.
Yes.
The second point, that oil price cap, the system was devised by Americans. And the idea was to reduce Russian revenues without disturbing the global oil supply. And this is still in force. It is still part of the US law. And it is part of the EU law. The EU has now reduced the price cap from $60 to $47.5.
Yes.
Now, that arrangement was devised to allow third countries to continue buying Russian crude. Now, the third point, if there's a stop, what happens? Russia accounts for something like 5 million barrels of crude oil exports. Iran accounts for another 1.5 billion or so. So you will be removing about 6.5 to 7 million barrels per day of oil from world market. At the moment, the consumption is around 105 million barrels. So roughly more than 5% of the current supply. There is no alternate source which can take care of this. There will be a huge oil price shock, and this will also affect the American consumer. Now, the fourth point is, India is not America's problem. Our trade, our surplus is a paltry $47 billion or something, or around that figure.
Okay.
China has a $300 billion surplus. Similarly, in case of oil, China buys double as much from Russia oil, and it also buys something like 70 BCM, billion cubic meter of gas per year from Russia. So even in energy terms, unless China falls in line, it's not going to make any difference to Russian coffers and the war effort in Ukraine. And from looking at it from our point of view, similarly, on a conciliatory note, America is not our problem, because America is a market where we have run a surplus. So there is a reason to be, conciliatory to them. And I think one way out could be, we can partly diversify. For instance, LNG imports, we buy a lot of LNG from Qatar. Now, part of that can be diversified or changed. In fact, I was on the GAIL board for 3 years, and during my term, we started buying from America.
Ambassador, just hold on to that thought. Just look at this breaking news. I'll come right back to you on this because it's related to what you're saying. This is the third update on this broadcast where Trump has basically instructed his Secretary of Commerce to identify whether other countries are directly or indirectly purchasing Russian oil, and has threatened punitive tariffs against these countries as well. Smita, the point on Russian oil being reinforced. India has pushed back, very explicitly articulated that energy security is our autonomy, it's our sovereign decision, it's our national interest. Trump here is saying, forget about India. Anybody else looking at Russian oil is going to be punished in the same way. He's digging in his heels on this point as well.
It could also be because of the question that was asked in the press conference that, hey, you yourself are doing it, fertilizer. It was asked about that you're taking Russian fertilizer. So that could be that, oh, okay, so if we are taking it, the other countries must be taking it too. So this is just, it goes on and on, I don't think he's just hunting now, you know that game which is there where those little crocodiles come up and you start hitting them all the time. It's like that. It's ridiculous. But then what to do? I mean, America's elected him and we have to deal with him for the next 3 years or at least till midterm. So let's see, we have to deal with it. There's one point that you had brought up about the diaspora, and one of the guests had said that, oh, Indian diaspora, we could lose their leverage. But unfortunately, what one has seen in the past month, during this past month about the Indian diaspora is that they have very limited political leverage on foreign trade issues. They might hold influence in US politics in a different aspect, but I don't think so. They have remained largely silent because trade policy, I think, is shaped by the tougher guys, by the institutions in the US dynamics. I don't think that advocacy groups in the Indian diaspora have very little marginal impact as far as decision making is concerned.
Asha, you want to respond to that or add to that? Smita says the Indian diaspora doesn't really have a say when it comes to trade policy. That's taken by the bigger boys.
Absolutely. So the thing is that what the Indian diaspora needs to be, this is a wake-up call even for the Indian diaspora. What the diaspora needs to do is to make sure that we are following the Israeli model, right? Which is that we are making sure that we are there in the right places at the right time and investing in the right candidates. For example, in Lindsey Graham case, right, in the Senator Lindsey Graham, how is it that we have not supported his candidacy? He is running again in 2026. We should all be there writing a small check. And these are small amounts and this is a very transparent system in US, thankfully. There should be at least a dozen people that should be there in and buying influence in Washington, D.C., because it's possible to buy influence legally, openly, and transparently. This is what the Indian diaspora should be doing. And we haven't done that, and I think we are paying a price now. Look at the Israelis, right? The Israeli model the Jewish model is that the Jewish diaspora will make sure that if any candidate said anything against Israel, it gets punished. Where is our power on that? And I think, thankfully, though, I have a feeling that this is the first time the Indian diaspora is slowly going to wake up. Right now, there is one party there in Washington, D.C. that is playing this game, and that's me. And thankfully, at least the people are watching me right now. But this needs to be at least 200 of us that need to be playing the game in Washington, D.C. We have to be doing this.
Interesting that you accept that the Indian diaspora should be doing a lot more. That is a important piece of clarity, because from the outside there is perhaps a kind of a disproportionate sense of what the diaspora can and cannot do. So that's an important point. In fact, Smita is the editor of ANI, and it was the ANI US correspondent today who asked that question to Trump, which has gone so viral. It's become, in many ways, the face of where things are at right now, and represents what many people see as American hypocrisy and duplicity. Here's an America that is importing these sensitive goods like uranium and palladium, and then, lecturing countries like India as far as importing oil is concerned. Here is that comment where ANI's Reena Bharadwaj asked this question to Trump. Just take a look at what he said.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
India says that the U.S. imports Russian uranium, chemicals, fertilizers, while criticizing their energy imports. Your response to that, sir?
I don't know anything about it. I'd have to check, but we'll get back to you on that.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
India says that the U.S. imports Russian uranium, chemicals, fertilizers, while criticizing their energy imports. Your response to that, sir?
I don't know anything about it. I'd have to check, but we'll get back to you on that.
Okay, I've got enough time to just get final comments from everyone, a few seconds each, if you please. Smita, I'll kick it off with you, since that soundbite from Trump was in response to your reporter's question in Washington. Is there a deal in sight? I know it's going to be difficult to get there, but can we agree that a deal is in sight, and all of what we're seeing right now is just a means towards that?
No, I don't think there is. Right now, at least, it's completely fogged out, and I don't see a deal in sight right now. 50% is a huge thing. It's something that should propel us to work towards a deal. So I'm just, again, hope is not a policy incentive, but then, yeah, hoping that somewhere better sense prevails on both sides.
Okay, it's all fogged out right now. Professor Latham, what do you think?
I think the interests are too powerful. This is not about hope, and it's not about wishes, and it's not about wish casting or anything like that. It's simply that the interests of these two countries geopolitically and ultimately economically align, and they're too powerful. And what we're going through now is a period of turbulence. When that meeting takes place on the 25th of August, which is before the 21-day deadline, I'll bet you there's a deal that gets done. Not everybody will be perfectly happy with it, but it'll be a deal that everybody can live with and that will advance India's interests and the United States' interests.
Ambassador Srivastava, very quickly, do you see any major escalation from this point forward towards a deal that may or may not be ahead?
We should not look for a deal in next 10-15 days. We have to be prepared and rough it out for a few months. But there is some scope where we can make an adjustment without affecting domestic sector. India was importing Russian crude oil not only for processing and sale in Indian market, but also for making petrochemicals for exports to third countries. Now, why should we invite American Roth for the sake of supplying petrochemicals to European market or US market or African markets? So there's a scope for cutting down our energy imports from Russia, but we must maintain. We cannot allow America to dictate our energy security.
Okay, right now it doesn't look like that's on the table, but fair enough.
But
Ambassador Sinha?
I quite agree with Ambassador Srivastava. In fact, both of us dealt with Iran when sanctions were there. He was in Tehran and I was in Delhi. We opened escrow accounts and dealt with it. I also dealt with Venezuela, but that was before the sanctions kicked in. So I have a fair idea on how to, and conversations are important.
Yeah.
And that's where I agree with Ms. Motwani, that conversations are important. We must talk, but we cannot threaten. We cannot, from the bully pulpit, order or, take punitive actions, because India's energy security is very important to it.
Yeah.
And I think we've been on record saying we won't compromise. Having said that, a deal is a deal, and I think both sides know the art of making a deal, especially the US side.
Right.
And I'm sure we can reach accommodation. However, the trust deficit, which Vishnu mentioned, I don't know how long that would take to bridge.
Asha, I started with you. I'll end with you. 20 seconds to you.
Okay, so the deal is on the table. It's going to happen. US is going to blink. India needs to make the phone call. Trump is going to melt.
Okay, we'll end it there. Thank you very much, Asha Jadeja Motwani, Smita Prakash, Ambassador Srivastava, Ambassador Sinha, and Professor Latham. This was very enjoyable, very illuminating. I know hope is not an instrumentality when it comes to diplomacy, especially when you're dealing with someone like Trump. And boy, during this broadcast, has he reminded us all that a deal is probably not 15, 20 days away. A lot of hardballing lies ahead for India, and we'll have to see where things actually go. But here on NDTV, we will be tracking it very, very closely and breaking every twist and turn on this.